my Uncle Emmett is my favorite relative. The first is that for as long as I can remember, he rode a motorcycle for a living. And the second reason is that he had a huge video library collection of every biker movie ever made. But his all-time hero was Marlon Brando in The Wild One. Then 2 years ago, while I was working on a documentary in Europe, my Uncle Emmett suddenly disappeared without a trace. For 2 years, no one saw or heard of him. And then 6 months ago, out of nowhere, he just as suddenly reappeared. But he was completely different. Well, in a nutshell, I met a girl, I had an accident, I was committed to an insane asylum, I met a guy named Bad Boy, and the rest is history. 2 years ago, I was in parking enforcement in Petaluma. I was riding a three-wheeled Harley-Davidson 73 trike. 17 years I was doing that. You know, in the beginning, well, I joined because I liked to ride a motorcycle, the high, shiny boots, a very nice salary, good perks, dental plan, and a long stick with a piece of chalk on the end of it, so I'm going for the power and the perks, you know?
I was his immediate supervisor, and I don't think he really liked me very much. He was always kind of angry around me. I think it's because...
I'm 59 years old 2 years ago, and I'm still riding around downtown Petaluma with a long stick with chalk on the end of it and a three-wheeled motorcycle that can't go faster than 35 miles an hour, so, you know.
He'd bring these things in, and he'd been putting high-test gas in them, and which is not good.
He felt that people who were younger than him were being promoted over him just because they were younger, including once was a young girl, which I think especially made him mad.
It was beginning to get to me.
Snapping the gears, he'd bring them in, there'd be holes in the pistons.
That's when I met Doreen Percale. Heavyset woman, beautiful.
And we specialize in corporate packages for different corporations, and we also offer employee discounts for the corporations in the area.
Oh, yeah, where's your shop?
Oh, it's on Main Street in Petaluma.
Now, do you know my uncle, Mr. Emmett Sagittarius Demas?
Emmett Demas?
Yeah.
Isn't he? Yes, he's the parking enforcement officer that used to be here a couple years ago.
He always found his way onto Main Street and was working that block where her shop was. He would go on his lunch hour for whatever reason and kind of hound that block. I've never seen anyone write so many tickets in one block area.
Well, I didn't really know him. He wrote a lot of tickets on the street that my shop is on.
I was always writing a ticket when she came out to adjust the awning, you know, little strategic placements.
I must have gotten $300 in parking tickets. I mean, the thing would go bonk, violation, he'd be there writing a ticket.
A little wink, a little nod, a little eye action, blah, 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 you know what I'm saying.
He paid me, you know, he paid me 20 bucks to take the governor off of his bike, which I did. And I figured, what the hell? I'd goose it out a little for him, you know, I'd let him have a good time.
I was ready to make my big move.
And then I was promoted above him, and I think that that's really the straw that broke.
And I had the accident. They tell me that I took a header into a truck on my trike. And here comes this couple. My niece, Janet. Didn't know her from Mike Tyson. Didn't. She brought her husband, too, that dorky guy, Charlie. Fast Charlie.
I gotta wait for a call.
Complete citizen, you know, a 99%er.
Living in a little shit box of an apartment, a one-bedroom. We're 4 months behind in rent. Our credit cards are maxed out.
To this guy named Moose, Michael Mitchell. And he's an enforcer.
What do you mean by an enforcer? You mean like an enforcer?
An enforcer for a gambling guy, a guy to whom Charlie owes money.
Moose has his own situation going. He's living in his own little apartment with his wife, their 3 kids, his mother, his brother's wife, and their 2 kids. Now we're talking about, you know, Moose is a loose cannon to begin with, but, you know, this just heightens everything.
My boss has me deal with people that owe him money. First time he called me, we were having dinner.
How long ago was this, by the way?
2 years ago. The point being is, you don't call me at home when I'm with the family eating dinner and expect to work out something. That's not how it's done. And also, this guy's a punk. I know he's not going to pay. He's not going to come up with the money.
He couldn't pay. Now, it was Moose's job to see that he paid. However, if he couldn't pay, he was going to break his legs. Charlie knew this.
You thought that was okay?
He came?
You thought that was okay?
Yes. Michael's a good man. He's got to make a living, and somebody's got to do this. There are people who use this. They borrow and never pay back. And that should not happen.
She was upset. She goes, the children are here and he wants to work out a deal. I don't work out deals in front of my kids. You know, they know what I do, but I don't work out deals in front of them because it's a matter of character. I'm trying to teach them a sense of character, sense of self-reliance. You know, what's this guy calling up and working out a deal? It doesn't teach them a sense of being responsible.
Then we get a phone call. Janet's uncle, Emmett, was involved in a motorcycle accident up in Petaluma. So we have to load up into our car, head up to Petaluma. We walk into the hospital, we see Emmett. Emmett sees us, doesn't recognize us from Emmett. She is besides herself, all right? Her beloved uncle doesn't even recognize her anymore. I get this idea. I call up my lawyer, Sid Kessler, and I said, look, Sid, this is the situation.
I called Judge Volpe, an old friend.
They were behind in their rent, putting things on credit cards. They were in a bad way, and there was no way they could take on the responsibility of looking after them. It would have been a terrible situation for him.
Janet and Charlie, Janet particularly as a blood relative, be named executor of Mr. Demas's estate. As such, they were in a position to sign commitment papers so that he could be institutionalized. They were also in a position then to liquidate his assets, sell his home and all of his effects, create a trust fund into which the funds accrued would be deposited to the institution caring for Mr. Demas for as long as he needed to be cared for. Judge thought that was a great idea, said, I'll call my man in medicine, Dr. Hill, something with an H, and get the paperwork started. That's what he did, that's what we did, that's what they did, and that's what happened.
Sid basically said that he needs to be hospitalized, and he brought me the documents from Dr. H-I-L-A-I-R-E,
Dr. Dr. period. Hilaire.
Could be. And he looked at this gentleman, diagnosed him, and indeed found that he was really worthy of being in an institution.
On the next day, Charlie and Janet picked me up in his rebuilt Jeep, you know, post office Jeep, you know, those white little rattle traps. And I don't know how people can ride inside, you know. I don't know how citizens ride inside a car. It boggles my mind, you know. I don't know. They drove me up to Taylorsville, right outside the suburbs in the boonies. Is Dr. Hilaire's home for the terminally unlucky. It seemed to me there was just like old people and loonies. Not my crowd, not my crowd. I didn't know who I was, but I know they weren't my crowd, whoever I was. So as soon as Janet and Charlie were out of the driveway, go up to the doctor, the head doctor, Dr. Hilaire, Dr. George Hilaire, remember that name.
Very nice, I'll send you a copy.
It's a little balding, short, fat, beady-eyed guy.
Well, he called me a few weeks later and said that he had a house up in Petaluma that he wanted to sell me at a price that I would be comfortable with.
It became clear that Mr. Demas was suffering from some form of memory loss, which is my specialty, and was unable to take care of himself and could possibly present a danger to himself or others.
So he gave me a deal. This is the deal. As soon as I know who I am, I'm out of there. Now that seemed like a very fair offer on the surface. But I checked below the surface, and it turns out I have to know who I am, but according to him. You know, so I said, let me play another game, because I don't like this game. I don't think I can win. I don't even think I can fuck with the point spread. So he says, fine. He keeps me high and crawling the walls for 3 days straight.
His niece had brought him some tapes from home.
I sat in the day room and watched The Wild One with Lee Marvin and Marlon Brando 140 times in 3 days. And nobody minded.
And then he started shouting at the other patients, something about kicking out the jams and busting up the joint before their brains were fried. Calmed him down with sedation and put him in solitary. They didn't let him have his tapes anymore.
Yes, we sold his house, but the bottom line for me is anybody else would have done that same thing. We sold his house to take care of him so that he'd be able to get constant attention, constant care, entertainment, if you will, food, bed, a place to stay. We had no room in the house. Do you know what it's like to take care of somebody who's got dementia?
I'm the motorcycle man. Yeah, I'm the man. I'm the motorcycle man. Well, I won't do what you tell me.
Over in back of the house, we saw some deer and some other wild animals, and I love shooting animals and killing the things in the backyard. And it's a great time to teach the kids about that. So, $200,000 for the house, $10,000 to pay off the debt, and $10,000 broker's fee. $220. Come on. That's my ideal weight, by the way, 220. I'd like to get down to 220.
There's one young nurse, Pamela, who happened to be my nurse. Very, very nice. Built and very intelligent, you know, very rare to have those qualities together in one person. And still, you know, respect, always respect.
I used to hear like motorcycle noises coming from his room.
That was the last time I saw him, because when I left, Pamela came on duty. And then the boyfriend showed up.
Bad boy, biker, outlaw, rode with the Iron Pirates out of Badoo. Badass motorcycle gang, club, excuse me.
His real name was Reginald. He was English, but he hated that name, so we used to call him Bad Boy, and he was a biker. He was pretty cool. He had this great bike. He would come over always on the graveyard shift. Because when I'd do my rounds, he would like kick back in the next room, or rooms that were available. Being on a bike with Bad Boy was, I mean, it was wild. I mean, we'd do these late night runs, 12 hours. We'd go somewhere like Death Valley. A wild feeling, you know, free and careless.
She was into it. She loved getting on the back, you know. She'd really get a thrill out of it.
Red, and he had white on it, and it had groovy handlebars. A great backseat for me with a, you know, so I could lean back. It made a lot of noise, and it was like low in the front. Once I went once on the love ride. That was awesome. All these bikes, all different kinds of colors. So many people with so many bikes. I mean, all different colors, and they were gorgeous. You know, old people, young people, dogs sitting up on handlebars, engines, I mean, you know, that roaring sound, vroom, you know, and to hear all at once. The sound of the engines. Oh, just the power. All these people with all these bikes. And then they'd start them like that. This was like so cool, and he was great. We had a lot of fun. That night he came by, and he found Emmett's tapes. He started watching the videos, and it was a wild one. And then Emmett walks into the room with a straitjacket. He was like, I guess he must have forgot to tie him down. I don't know, but he walks in with a straitjacket, and he sees Bad Boy watching this video. And Emmett knows all the words to this movie, but so does Bad Boy.
So I think, oh, you know, this guy's all right. No, you know, he's cool. So Pam says to him, come on, get back to bed, get back to bed. And I said, no, let him, you know, let him sit and have a watch. Let him watch the film. You know, put him in a chair, give him a beer. He's all right. Take him out the jacket, all right? Let him, you know, he's all strung up like a chicken, you know?
His favorite movie was The Wild One, see? And he was visiting Pam, my nurse, Pamela, on the graveyard shift. And he would give her a ride home, but he would come over and she would give him the key to the pharmacy to keep him busy until she was finished, blah, blah, blah. So he sits down next to me, this bad boy, you know. So we're sitting there and we're watching a movie and we both agree. Marlon Brando is the wuss. Lee Marvin is the man. Oh yeah, check it out, sure. Anyway, two minds, one thought, you know, so we're bonding.
I saw no harm in letting him, you know, sit in and watch it.
So I went and did my rounds, and when I came back, I found bad boy unconscious and naked.
I go to the drugs cabinet and, you know, there's plenty in there, and I mix myself up a little cocktail, you know, speedball, and I'm whacking them in, and well, I pass out, don't I? I'm out, I go out cold. Obviously, I mixed up the wrong amounts. But, you know, these things happen. I'm clean now, let me straight that. I'm clean. At that time, I was a bit mad, a bit out of control. Next thing I know, that I'm aware of, all my clothes are gone. You know, I'm stripped jack naked, you know? So I run out, and it's gone. He's taken the bike.
I'm riding on a shovelhead chopper with high road pegs, 4-speed Bendix tranny, 8 hangers, and I'm going 90 miles an hour down this black, icy road in a blizzard with no front headlight, no front brakes, a dead man's clutch. My fingers are frozen on a wide open throttle, and there's no top. And I woke up in a pool of sweat. And here's birds singing in a tree above me, and it's a rosy pink sunrise, and I am covered in bird shit. And I'm in the middle of the boonies. I'm in the middle of, I tell you, you know, I'm like 2 miles east of Cowpine, New Nowhere. Nothing, just trees, no animals, just trees, not a human being. And in the middle of all this, here's these flashing blue and red lights, a siren, a bullhorn, flak jackets, and a Colt 45 pointed right at me. It's the police chief and his assistant, you know, in the middle of nowhere. I must have been born with like a hot donut up my ass, because no matter where I go, cops show up, you know?
I immediately diagnosed some kind of Vietnam syndrome, a Vietnam vet.
That's bullshit. You know what? I knew what was going on. You know, I wasn't born yesterday. It's Bass Lake all over again.
He was belligerent. He said virtually we could kiss his ass.
Boom, I shot out of there like a bat out of hell. I'm gone, I'm history, I'm down the road, I'm following my front tire. Yeah, my Uncle Emmett's out there somewhere right now following his outlaw code and saving road pilgrims from injustices. He's definitely my all-time favorite relative.